Hello again, my friends. This is episode 31 of Just Return, the story that I'm telling. When I wrote this, I had to do a little research into how people got involved with the Nazis, really. And this is what Gus was explaining to Belle, trying to help her understand why he had the views that he did. I'll read on. So I grew up in a ravished country, a deplorable place where poverty was rampant. The land of my father seemed destined to be like a once proud racehorse lying down with a broken back. Men like my father, who had fought in that war, who had done what they thought was right, were now rewarded with a nation that had no hope. Of course, the Kaiser had abdicated, and the Weimar Republic was useless. It was like a broken down machine before it even started. I grew up in a bitter country that blamed its defeat and social squalor on socialists, communists and Jews. Belle listened as she poured more coffee. In 1936, I was 16, Adolf Hitler had risen to power and Germany seemed as if it could be a great nation again. I became a member of Hitler Youth. And what did that involve? Well, all young ones had to register and we were educated in the Nazi way of doing things. Yeah, I loved this movement. Germany was a racehorse again. Its wounds were healing. We had a great leader. I was proud to be a German again. There was the Deutsch Jungvolk for those 10 to 14, and for us older youths, 15 to 18, there was the Hitler Youth. I loved it all. I was a part of this rising from the grave that the Allies had built for us in 1918, 1919. I was a child of the new age of German magnificence. Our motto was, Führer command, we followed. We marched, we camped, we attended after school meetings and were instructed in how we could serve the Führer and the fatherland. Young people without Belle, they need something to believe in, some hope of better times. Hitler promised, and he was changing Germany. Things I had heard my father and uncles and family friends say in whispers in our home were now being proclaimed by the government of the day. I was helped by my very German appearance. I had blonde hair, blue eyes, and I was tall. I loved military discipline and had become good at obeying orders. You look at me now, Belle, but you do not know how it was then. Had you been a young girl in Hitler's Germany, you would have enrolled in the BMD, the League of German Girls, and you too would have been infected by the enthusiasm, the patriotism, the sheer power of the National Socialist Germany rising up and refusing to be bullied by other nations. No, Gus, I would not have been involved at all. I would have been classed as a Jew. Belle whispered the words. Their eyes met briefly, but Gus chose to ignore them and continued. I was at a rally in Dresden. Hitler and him were both there. I was so excited. As I listened to the Führer's rousing words, I knew that I would kill, live and die for this man and my country. He was the one who would save my country from the dreadful conditions it had been in. We, the German nation, could be a grand power again. He would lift our heads up. Of course there would be those who must pay. I read Hitler's writings, Mein Kampf. Also for the first time my father and I were of one mind, and my mother, and my siblings. Yes indeed, now there was less arguments in the house, in the street, everywhere. We were all going one way together. We were as one people, Aryans, all in unity. We had been used and we'd been abused, but now we would stand up and be a powerful force to be recognised. Those who did not conform with the enemy, there would be no room for dissent. Belle had to interrupt. How could you possibly think it was right to allow no dissent? A free people allow... We were not interested in freedom, Belinda. Gus corrected her sharply. We were interested in total obedience to the Führer. And the Jews, did they even have a choice? Gus paused before he spoke. Belle, it's one thing to sit here in this deserted place. Me, an old German, and you a young English-Irish girl with a little Jewish blood. In the 1930s, most Germans believed that the Jews had bled our country. Oh, come on, Gus. Many Jews were in poverty in your country just as they were in England. I accepted what I understood to be the truth. We were a superior race. It would be, as your Englishman Darwin said, survival of the fittest. Darwin did not advocate persecution of the Jews or any other nations. No, that may be so, but he was gathering his specimens around the world, and while he was doing that, gathering all his information, Britain still had black slaves in its colonies. Bill didn't want to comment on that. She wasn't sure what she felt about Darwin. Also, Belle, Darwin had a cousin, another English man called Sir Francis Galton. Do you know about him? Belle shook her head. She could see she'd have to listen. Sir Francis Galton, who died a while before World War I, was a clever man. He understood that we all have unique fingerprints. He was ahead of his time. He coined the phrase eugenics. Ah, they did not teach you this in your English or Irish schools, I say. Do you know what eugenics is? No. Well, it is the science of human breeding. Your Mr. Galton, yes, your Mr. Galton, he advocated that the human race should be improved by selective breeding using superior parents. He was indeed a man ahead of his time, as I said. How arrogant for anyone to think that they could decide who would make superior parents. Belle was horrified. How dare you to think that Jews are inferior? Gus looked into her angry eyes. Belle, if you had been a poverty-stricken German girl in 1934 and you'd heard those rousing speeches and attended those stirring rallies, you too would have believed it. No, never, I would not. Any under your glorious Adolf Hitler, I wouldn't have been wanted. How could you stand by when the Jews were dragged from their homes and businesses? How could you? How could you when they were incarcerated in death factories? Well, Belle, you want the truth, yeah? Yes, I want the truth. Well, I did not stand by. I joined in. I was there on Kristallnacht. I was soon a young soldier with a promising future, and it was suggested that I join the SS. You? You were in the SS? Yes, I did join the SS, and I rose through the ranks to be SS Sturmbannführer. That is similar to a major in the British Army. Indeed, we were the chosen ones. We were the model for the master race. I was invited to join the SS by Hermann Boss, a friend of Himmler himself. I had all the right credentials and was pure German, and my ancestry, background, everything, the aristocracy in my background equipped me with everything on paper to prove it. I was proud of my uniform and of our very close link to the Führer himself. We who had this special loyalty to the Führer and the party were also proud of our mottos and slogans. Loyal, valiant, obedient. Another one, my honour is loyalty. We were determined that we would fight the enemy without and within. For me, the war with the enemy within began on Kristallnacht, which was November 9th, 1939. Yeah, the enemy within had to be dealt with. The Jews, you mean. The Jews, the communists, Beiwolfwäscher, that's Jehovah's Witnesses, Roma and Sinti, that's gypsies, homosexuals, and anyone else who, by word or action, refused to be a fully loyal supporter of Hitler's Nazi Germany. That was my belief, my job. I did my work well and I obeyed without question. Then you were a fool. Huh. So your father, in the Irish Republican Army, did he obey orders? You know he did. Did he give orders? Yes. Did he expect his loyal volunteers in West Belfast to argue with the orders or to question them, even disobey them? No, Belle, he did not. If my father had been ordered to exterminate even Free Presbyterians, say, just because they were Free Presbyterians, he would have refused. Ah, so who did he kill? Policemen, soldiers? Oh yes, the IRA said they were legitimate targets. Who said so? They did. Lord Mountbatten, he was a legitimate target, wasn't he? You do not know to what degree he obeyed orders, do you? Ja, Belinda, and if Northern Ireland had exploded into full-blown civil war, men like your father would have obeyed orders harsher than you can imagine. All armies do this. It's called war. The Jews, Gypsies, Jehovah's Witnesses were not at war with Hitler or Germany, Belle snapped. The Jews had bled us financially. The Gypsies were itinerant, lawless and uncontrollable, and the Jehovah's Witnesses were ideologically at war. They would not give allegiance to Heil Hitler. They would not use the greeting even, Heil Hitler. And they would not support the war effort. They would not even salute the flag of our nation. So being an itinerant or refusing to join the army deserves death then, does it? Yeah, in such times there is a need for loyalty, work, unity. Idleness or dissent must be stamped out. Utter rubbish, Gustav. Your talk is like filth from the sewer. It makes me sick. It stinks. Your Nazi party with its little brown head, short runt, telling everyone that the only good ones were tall, blonde, blue-eyed. Your bully boys with your concentration camps in your death. You Nazis were a bunch of paranoid vermin. Oh, so you insult me, Belle. But that's okay. You were not there. If you had been, people like you would have locked me. If I had been, people like you would have locked me up, gassed me, and burned my body in an oven. And why? Because I have some Jewish blood in my veins. And you dare to say I insult you? That is really rich coming from you. So, Belinda, who invented the concentration camp? The Nazis? Wrong, the British. As the world slid from the 19th to the 20th century, the British in South Africa herded thousands of Boers and blacks into concentration camps. Yeah, mostly women and children too. The history of Britain is filled with things, and you only remember what Britain chose to teach you. You forget, I had an Irish Catholic upbringing. Nonetheless, Britain didn't behave as a Nazi state did. Not at home so much maybe, but go ask the Sikhs about the massacre of the Golden Temple of Amritsar. You think the slave trade that made Bristol and Liverpool wealthy was pretty? Yeah? You should study history better, Belinda. Read about the Boston Massacre. Ah, yes. So what did your pa have to say about Bloody Sunday in 1972 on the bogside in Derry? If you, Belinda, have any pride in you for being British or Irish or Jewish or whatever else, you will find your heroes also killed in the name of their state, their leaders, their God. My heroes, Gustav, are people who saw the whole world as a brotherhood. Jesus Christ for one. I also am impressed by people like John Lennon, Gandhi. I do not seek to protect Britain or Ireland from its past. Nonetheless, I have made you my friend, and now I found out that my life in this forest has been shared with an SS officer who no doubt killed people I consider innocent. So, my friends, feelings run high. Let's see how this develops and where it goes in the next episode. Thanks for listening. Lots of things involved here. Conscience and abuse and use of it. Thank you for listening. Nice to talk to you. Bye for now.